on this.
All right, and then co-host. Hey, co-host. There you go. Should be good. All right, Magic Family, welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, this is our All Magic parent meeting training tonight, and we have the honor and privilege of Arvin Mosley, coach, joining us. Just a little bit about him, and I'm sure I won't hit on everything, and then I'll let him take it from here. But he's the head coach at Emerald Ridge High School, girls varsity coach. He's been there a few years now. Great success there. Um, he's advocate, a lot of leadership development in the community. Part of the Elite is Earn staff. His triple impact coaching is big out here, and he's also part of the PhD Hoops staff. Just brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. And tonight's topic, what was it? Parenting in today's landscape, which is right on point. Thank you for coming. But I'm looking forward to this. We appreciate your time. So welcome, Arvin Mosley.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Coach. I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure. Boom. Can I, Vanessa, can you see my screen? Am I good?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, cool. Hey, if any of you want to put your cameras on, I cannot make it mandatory, and I know some of y'all ain't dressed up, but it's going to be a long night with me staring at myself. I see Coach V's face, but it is helpful to look at other people. So if you can turn your camera on, cool. You can only imagine what it's like to just stare at a bunch of names for an hour while you talk. So I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. Today, we will talk about being a great sports parent in parenting in today's changing and evolving landscape. Get my cool. A quick overview. I've got 4 sections that we're going to focus on. The first one is knowing the game. Second section is takeaways. Third section is resilience and confidence. And then lastly, we'll finish with a start, stop, and a keep. So quickly, while you're sitting there, if your kids are with you, I know some of you may have your kids. We're going to take a quick assessment. You don't have to share your answer, but just to yourself, I'll read the questions and just give yourself a letter of one of these that may be you. So, parenting assessment. How do you typically react during a game when you disagree with the coach's decision? A, stay calm, let it go. B, get frustrated, but keep it to yourself. Voice your opinion, sometimes even during the game. Or D, gossip and complain with what I call sympathetic parents. And sympathetic parents are the ones that just kind of, they nod and they listen to you. They may or may not agree, but they don't tell you to be quiet. They let you talk. So real quick, give yourself a score on there. Question number 2. And since I can't see anybody, I don't know if I'm going too fast or too slow. So we're going to keep it rolling, y'all. Question number 2. What's your main focus when watching your child play? Are you concerned about their performance and stats, their effort and attitude, or how the team is doing overall? Again, this is just an assessment for you. Question number 3. After a game, what's the first thing you usually say to your child? Great game. Hey, let's talk about what went well and what didn't. Or you should or could have done X, Y, and Z. So what's the first thing that you usually say to your child? And then our last question on our quick parenting assessment. When your child has a tough game, what's your approach to supporting them? Do you let them process it on their own? Do you encourage them and remind them of their strengths? Or do you push them immediately to think about how to improve? Again, there's no right, no wrong. Just want us to kind of start to think a little bit about how we do our job as a parent. So briefly about me, the name of my company is Triple Impact Coaching. Triple impact stands for three things. First thing, I'm a teacher. I love to teach. When I was a little kid and people said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I want to play a running back in the NFL, or I want to be a high school teacher and a high school basketball coach. And I just thought those were the coolest things that somebody could be. And here I am today, a few years later, I am a high school coach. So teaching is what I love to do. I speak at conferences all over the area. I work at clinics all over the country, all over the world now, fortunately. So I love to teach the game. Triple impact coaching also stands for leadership. I love to lead. I'm the girls basketball coach at Emerald Ridge High School in Puyallup. Heading into my third full season, my fourth season overall. Um, I I was a head men's college coach for 9 seasons. I was the head coach at Tacoma Community College for 5. I was the head coach at Evergreen State for 4 on the men's side. And now I coach girls. And so you're talking about two different worlds, two different ways of going about it, college men all the way down to high school girls. And so I'm a teacher, I'm a leader. And then the last part of triple impact coaching is I'm a caretaker. And so that's my daughter and my beautiful granddaughter. And I always like to tell a story about my daughter to kind of really put things into perspective. So one day, my daughter is a senior at North Thurston High School. I'm the head coach at Evergreen State. My daughter calls me one day and says, "Hey, Dad, I need $300 for basketball." And I said, $300 for what basketball? "Oh, for my basketball stuff." And I said, "Baby, what basketball stuff are you talking about?" "Oh, well, my sweatsuit and my backpack and my shoes and my uniform stuff." I said, "But baby, stop. What basketball stuff are you talking about?" And she says, "Well, the coach saw me at PE and he knows you're my dad. And he said I should try out for the basketball team because I look athletic." And now my daughter hasn't played since 7th grade. And so I made the only call I have ever made to one of my children's coaches. And I said, "Hey, coach, I know my daughter wants to play basketball. She says she has an interest. I'm curious, do you keep seniors on JV?" And the coach says, "Hey, Mos, no, no, she's solid. She has a chance to play varsity." And I say, "Coach, if my daughter's playing varsity, y'all ain't gonna win too many games. So, do you keep seniors on JV?" And the coach said, "Yes, we've had seniors on JV." So I told my daughter, "Here's the $300. Only rule I have is you can't quit if you're embarrassed or you feeling a certain kind of way being a senior on JV." And so my daughter played a whole season as a senior, first season since 7th grade on JV as a senior. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is my daughter's beautiful. She's married. She's successful. She gave me a granddaughter. And ultimately, I want you all to understand about your kids. They can be awful at basketball and still grow up and be wonderful people. And so just to kind of keep that in mind. Quote about our kids: "Don't worry whether they're listening. Be more concerned that they're watching." Research has shown over and over that no matter if you tell your child to do what you say, but not what you do, does not work. That's false. It does not work. If you are speeding down the road, but you're telling your child, "Hey, you shouldn't speed when you drive," it's not going to work. If you're smoking a cigarette and telling your kid, "Hey, you shouldn't smoke," not going to work. Research shows that our kids are going to mimic and do what they see us do. And so I think it's really important that sometimes we're so caught up to, "You better give me eye contact. You better be listening to me." When in reality, what we ought to be doing is making sure that we give them something worth looking at. So section 1, know your role. I want us to understand our role. It comes along with knowing the game. So the first thing is, in your role as a parent, is you're a provider, and you know that. You provide rides, you provide money, you provide time and energy, you provide your tears and your love and your joy. But ultimately, your role as a parent is to provide for these young folks. Another role, which we talked about, is to model the way and show the way. Your kids are going to mimic how you treat their coach. Your kids are going to mimic how you treat your spouse. Your kids are going to mimic how you treat authority, whether it's the official of the game, whether it's a policeman that pulls you over for speeding, how you treat people, how you act, the way you move. Your kids are they're going to mimic you. They're going to mirror what you do. And so again, our role is to be a good model and show the way. Another part of our role is the no blame game. When my sons were playing, and he'd throw a really nice pass, and then somebody would drop it or miss a layup. And then I'd ask my son, how was your game? And he'd say, well, I would have had an assist if, Vanessa would have made a layup. And immediately, nope, Vanessa has nothing to do with your game. I say, was that the right pass at the right time? And then my son can say, yes. Cool. Right? We got to understand that we got to avoid letting our kids say things like, well, I would have had an and one if the ref would have called it. We'd have won the game if they would have called that three in the key or that travel. We've got to really make a conscious effort as parents to not allow the blame game and also not participate. Another one of our roles. This is so important for us to understand. You got to be a treasure hunter, parents. What I mean by a treasure hunter and a value finder is this. What's important to you in your life? What's important to you in your family? What's important to you in your home? That's what you look for. We call that hunting for the good. So, for example, my son doesn't start a game the other day. He had been starting in practice, and then they play a game he doesn't start. His team scores a basket. He's on the bench cheering. He's on the bench with good positive body language. After the game, my feedback had nothing to do with playing and winning and losing and stats. My feedback have everything to do with, man, you were a great teammate to start the game. Now, because again, I'm being a treasure hunter, I'm filling him with a certain level of contentment and joy around being a good teammate. And so, what it is that is important to you is what you want to search for with your kids. When your kids are doing a good job communicating and high-fiving, whatever it is that's important to you, point that out. And don't just say you did a good job high-fiving, say you showed great leadership, you showed great accountability, you showed great camaraderie. Try to put a name and a label with the value that you're finding or the treasure that you're hunting for. Because then again, your kid can grasp onto that, and then they're going to want to please you. That's what our kids do. And so again, I really encourage you to be a treasure hunter or a value finder. And the values again, accountability, discipline, teamwork, family, joy, happiness. And again, how you talk about your kid in the game. Man, it looked like you played with a lot of joy out there today. And now your kid gets that reinforcement from you. They're going to try to play with joy more again. Be a treasure hunter. You are the CEO of your home. You are the chief encouragement officer. And so after a game, the first thing that I will say to my kids, the first thing I say to my son had a tournament today. They lost a game in the semifinals up at the field house, and so the game got over. He was a little upset because they lost, and this could have happened and that could have happened. And I put because I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I put my hand on his shoulder and I said to my son, I had fun watching you play. Did you have fun? That's it. Now, the first time, if you're one of those ornery fathers, I know we got some ornery fathers on here. If you're one of those dads that's really hard on your daughter or really hard on your boy, and you're constantly, the first time you say that, they're going to be like, Dad, what's wrong with you? You're acting weird. Okay. So the first time you say, I had fun watching you play, and you say that, your instinct is to follow it or to follow it with to qualify it with, I had fun watching you play because you won. I had fun watching you play because you hit a lot of three-pointers or because you took a charge. Don't qualify having fun watching your child play. Don't qualify it. I had fun watching you play. And leave it right there. Again, initially it'll feel a little bit awkward, especially if you're a parent that immediately defaults to giving out advice or feedback. But what's going to happen is your kid will most likely open up or at least feel more comfortable opening up to you if you can just simply say, man, I had fun watching you play. And then I also would challenge you with this. If you can't say that because you didn't have fun watching your child play, then maybe there's something going on with you, or maybe there's some dynamics that you might want to look into that keep you from enjoying watching your child play. Because ultimately, as a parent, that we want that to be an enjoyable time for our children and for ourselves. And so if you watch your kid play all day and you can't find a way to say I had fun watching you play, then there's some more, maybe some internal work that we got to do there. Know your blind spots. We all have this thing called unconscious incompetence. Anybody ever heard of that? What unconscious incompetence means is this: you have some incompetence that you don't know about. It's literally just your blind spot. We all are blinded by the love of being a parent. You watch your kid play and you're blinded by the love that you have for them doesn't allow you to see their mistakes. The love that you have for them doesn't allow you to hear your biases. The love that you have for them really makes it difficult for you to be objective in terms of how they play. And so, again, my son plays today. I've got my two sons play. I've got one that's a freshman at Emerald Ridge High School, and he just made JV this week. And then I have a sixth grader that plays for Seattle Rotary. And someone asked me, "Hey, what did you think about the game?" And I immediately said, because they know I'm a coach, and I immediately said, as a dad, this is what I saw. As a coach, I saw something a little bit different. And I really try to make sure that I separate the two, because I'm a dad. I love my son. I think my son's better than your son, right? You think your son's better than my son. It's part of it. We get that. But at the same time, there's X's and O's. There's things that happen on the court that, as a coach, that I see that I can evaluate or critique a little bit differently sometimes with my family. And so just really understand that you have those biases. Another blind spot in knowing the game is having some self-awareness, some self-control, and understanding self-talk. Self-awareness goes back to our blind spot. You sit in the stands and you yell, and you might think that nobody's mad about it. Nobody ever says anything to me. Just because nobody says anything doesn't mean that what you're doing is not bothersome or distracting. And so having some self-awareness of what you say. We talk about, and we'll get into this a little bit, but when you really understand your role as a parent, you don't say things like shoot that. You don't say things like pass that. You say things like let's play defense. You say things like let's rebound, because that is always going to partner well with what your coach is saying. You telling your daughter to shoot it may not partner with what Coach Vanessa has asked your daughter to do. You telling your kid, man, you got to take that to the hole, might not fit with what we're trying to accomplish in that moment on the basketball court. So understanding some self-awareness around the words that come out of your mouth. And then also self-control. If you show up at a 9 a.m. game at Auburn Fieldhouse on a Sunday and you're that fired up and that excited and you're yelling at your kid to wake up, I tell you this, you should never cheer louder than your child plays. Let me say it again. You should never cheer louder than your child plays. If your kid is playing quiet and your kid is playing soft and meek and tired and sleepy, it's not your job in the long term. It's not going to be helpful for you to be the battery in their back and the battery in their back. It's not sustainable because you're not going to be at every game. So I really encourage you to have some self-awareness, have some self-control. If your kids are sleepwalking through it, I know our instinct is to be like, come on, guys, come on, girls, wake up, you got to wake up. But ultimately, it's got to be about them and their experience, which leads us to it's their journey. It is their journey. You had your trip, you had your rodeo, you had your opportunity. Nobody cares that you were first team all league in 1998. Nobody cares, especially your child. My children do not care that I played 4 years of college basketball. My kids do not care because they think they're better than me right now. They don't care about how good I was back in the day. Both of my children started playing basketball for Vanessa. So both of my kids played for Vanessa in fourth grade for my older one. And his brother was a first grader hanging out in the gym, just tagging along. And Vanessa would be like, just get in the drills. And so my kids played for Vanessa first. They were one of her first coaches in the travel ball era. And not one time did I ever tell Vanessa she was doing something right or wrong. It was just never a part of it. It was my kids' journey. I said I had fun watching you play, and as long as they were safe, they had psychological safety, and it was a healthy environment, it's their journey. I really want them to experience it. And so I think it's important that we recognize that. Remind yourself that you're watering those seeds daily. So when we'll talk about the car ride, but the language that you use with your kids and the way that you talk about their coach, the way that you talk about the other kids on the team, you're watering seeds. You're watering your child's seeds. And what kind of water, whether it's toxic water or fresh, healthy water, is going to determine what kind of flower blooms from that seed. And so I really make sure that what kind of commentary that we're talking about. And so for me, I won't talk about my kids in front of them. So if we're on the way home, my dad calls, "Hey, how was the game?" I'll let the kids talk. I'll say, "Hey, tell grandpa how the game was." I try not to give my perspective while my child is sitting right there because I don't want to be watering the seeds and saying things like, "Well, if Marcus would have passed the ball to my son in the corner, he'd have hit that three." And I don't want those seeds to be watered. I don't want my child to get that adult feelings from me in those environments. And so I just really encourage you to understand that every day you're watering those seeds and just make sure you're giving them the right nutrients. And lastly, I know this is going to come as a shocker. You really don't have to give your opinion after every game. You don't. There is no rule that says that you must provide a post-game report to your child. There is, and so I think we have to give ourselves some space on that. You don't have to give your opinion after every game. It's okay. Something that we have found fun in our car is we've talked to our sons because we have our two sons, and what we allow them is a two goods and a takeaway. And so what they do, and they've agreed on this, so we didn't force it on them. They've agreed that after the game, it's okay. The other brother gets to say to the other brother, "Hey, can I give you my feedback?" And he says, "Yep." And he says, "Okay, well, here's two things that you did well, and here's something else that you could have did better from where I was sitting." And we do qualify that. Here's something that you could do better from my perspective, from where I was sitting, because it's not the final answer. It's just their perspective. And so it's really cool to see in the car ride home how my son will be like, "Man, you were good on defense. Man, you were really shooting the ball. From what I saw, I think you could have talked a little bit more." Or from where I was sitting, I think you could have passed that one over there. And it allows them to get practice receiving feedback. Do you know what unasked for feedback is? Do you know what unasked for feedback is? It's criticism. If I didn't ask you for your opinion and you give it, you're actually criticizing me. Most of us on this call right now are not receptive to somebody just walking up after work. "Man, the way you were crunching those numbers, do you think you could have did those a little bit better today? Man, Marcus, I saw you hauling some stuff today. You don't think you could have got a little bit more on your truck?" Like that's not it's criticism, right? So making sure that we don't always have to give our opinion. Let's talk about knowing our personnel. Do your kids have routines? And if they don't, or if they do you know what they are? Your kid has a 9 o'clock game. Do they have a routine that they're comfortable with, that they are going to kind of stick to or adhere to as they go to their game? Do they have a post-game routine of what they like to do? Right. And so I think it's important that we start to help our kids develop a routine, a pregame routine or a post-game routine. My younger son is an hour before it's time to go. If he has an 8 o'clock game and we got to leave at 7, I got to wake him up at 6. And that's a 12-year-old telling me that, right? He wants to be awake an hour before the game. Now, why? Well, he wants to eat his cereal and then play on his phone or play on his iPad for like a half hour. I get it. But that's his routine, though. And so I want to honor that and recognize that as best I can. So I really encourage you to figure out, what is your kid's routine? What are their routines? How do your kids like to engage? We automatically assume, because we are the biggest person in the vehicle or at the house and we're the loudest person that makes all the money, that we can decide how we engage with our young people. I think it's important that we give them opportunity as we let them grow. How do they like to engage? What type of conversations do they like to have? What type of feedback do they like? And again, we do that by asking a lot of open-ended questions. What did you think about the game? My kids have learned, again, this is stuff that I've trained. A lot of times we talk about today's kids are so different. Today's kids are so different. And what I would say is, well, you know what? Instead of complaining about it, why don't you be different? Instead of complaining about today's kids being different, why don't you coach differently? Why don't you mom differently? Why don't you dad differently? And so a part of that is asking open-ended questions. At our house, when they get in the car after school and I say, how was school? They don't say good. They say good. And we did this, we did that. And they have learned that I'm going to probe and I'm going to ask. So you can provide it first and up front, or dad's going to start digging. Who'd you sit with at lunch? I like that. I read some stuff about it was kind of related to school violence, and it just talked about how we don't probe enough with our kids. And so one of the things that I'll ask is, who'd you eat lunch with? Is that who you normally eat with? Was anybody sick today? We were talking about COVID. Was anybody sick today? No, oh, they were. Do you sit next to the people that were sick? And again, all I'm doing is probing and trying to learn a little bit more about the culture of the kids that hang out with my son. Who'd you play with that recess? And he says a name, or he'll say a little girl's name, and I'll be like, oh, who's that? And his face gets red. Now you're like, oh, okay, now there's something going on here, right? And like again, the idea is that we just ask open-ended questions, allowing them to engage. The other piece about knowing your personnel is hurry up and listen. Again, you don't have to tell them everything. You live with them. You don't have to use the car ride home or the gym time right after practice with the Magic to give them everything that you know. It's okay. Just listen. Hurry up and listen. You have all day to give your coaching advice. And then the other piece I think that we sometimes struggle with is letting our kids sit with the joy and the pain of the game. Let them sit with the pain. Don't be so quick to say, it's okay, baby. It'll be better tomorrow. Sometimes it's okay for them to hurt. Sometimes it's okay for them to feel like I did not like that. And at the same time, at the same time, they play a 9 a.m. game and they win big, and they're goofing off and having fun, but they got a game at 11. Who cares? Let them have some joy for winning the 9 o'clock game. Don't be so quick to say, you guys better get focused. You got a game in an hour and a half. Give them some space to sit with the joy and run around and be goofy and have fun. And the same thing with the pain. Give them those opportunities to sit with both of those feelings and those emotions. Don't be so quick to protect them or save them from those. Let's talk about takeaways. When you coach from the sidelines, you take away opportunities for your kids to learn how to communicate. When you coach from the sidelines, you take away opportunities for your kid to be coached. You pay monthly dues every month for a woman or a man to coach your child with the Northwest Magic. Pay your dues. Let your money work for itself. Let the coaches coach. The other piece is young people struggle to talk face to face sometimes. They do a really good job on their phone, text messaging and things of that nature. And sometimes they don't do as well talking to each other face to face. And a game is an excellent time for young people to learn how to talk to each other. Emotions are high, there's tension, there could be fun and joy and happiness. Let them learn how to communicate with each other. Don't take that away. When you coach from the sidelines, you take away opportunities for resilience and emotional regulation. When you're telling your kid every time that they miss a shot or struggle, if you're constantly saying, keep your head up, it's going to be okay. Come on, baby, you're okay. The reality is you're not allowing them to develop emotional regulation. You're not going to be there the first time they get rejected from a job, or a girl tells them no when they ask her to homecoming. You're not going to be there to always protect them. You've got to allow them that space on the court between the black lines to develop their own resilience and to develop their own emotional regulation. I had a young man that would get teary-eyed during the games up until probably 5th grade, and still, like, there'd be times during the game where he would get teary-eyed, and there would be times where I would want to go save him. I want to go show him that I love him, that I'm here for him, and that it's okay to cry. And then there's also times where I want to do, like, the old school, like a lot of our dads just say, oh, you want to cry? I'm gonna give you something to cry about, right? And I oscillated back and forth between those two. Do I go hug him and love him, or do I go spank him? So now you want to cry? Here's something to cry about. What I did was thumbs up, sit back. The one time that I've gone over to a bench during a game, my son was in tears. They were playing up a year. He had just transferred to, he had just made the Rotary team, and they were playing up a year. Rotary's a pretty solid program with them, and so there were some big boys out there, a little bit of mustaches, them reclass seventh graders with mustaches, and he didn't want to go in, and I'm seeing him shake the coach off like a catcher shaking off like a pitcher shaking off the catcher, right? And he's just like, and no. And so I let it go. I let it go. And he sat there and moped. And so I walked over. And again, my instinct was to be a little bit more aggressive. But what I did is I walked over and I said, "Hey, son, what's going on?" He said, "I don't want to play right now." I said, "Cool. Then you better be the best damn teammate on this bench. And if you're going to sit on this bench and not play, you better be clapping them hands and you better be cheering and standing up every single time somebody checks out of the game. Do you understand me?" And he said, "Yes." And ultimately, he was a good teammate for a half. And then later in the second half, he checked in, and the rest is history, as they say, right? And so I think it's important that we avoid protecting and saving our kids from those environments when we can. But you're a parent, you do what you have to do. But that was the only time that I've ever walked over to a bench to support my kid. And it was just to tell him, "Hey, man, you better be a good teammate." When you coach from the sidelines, you take away their focus. No matter how loud Strozier is, no how loud Coach Vanessa is, your voice is always going to be the loudest voice in the gym, no matter what. If you look at your kid and just do this, shoot, and you just tell her to shoot, that is 10 times louder than anything that Vanessa could ever say to your kid. So again, when you coach from the sidelines, you're stealing focus from your child. You're stealing opportunities for them to be coached. You're stealing opportunities for them to develop emotional regulation. In the car ride home, when you do all the talking, when you feel like this is when you got to get it all off your chest, you take away opportunities for self-reflection and expression. The car ride home can often be an emotional time, good and bad, and it's really an opportunity for kids to develop self-regulate or self-reflection. "Hey, what did you think about the game?" "Oh, no." "Okay." Then we start probing with some open-ended questions. "Hey, did you think that you played well?" "Well, I guess so." "Well, what did you think that you did well?" "Well, I mean, I made good passes." "All right, cool, cool. What else?" And so now we're helping teach our kids how to reflect, how to look back. They might be emotional, but to be able to look back and at least pull out their perceptions in that moment. Doesn't always got to match up with yours. It just needs to match up with what they're thinking and feeling at the time. When you do all the talking in the car, you take away opportunities for them to build emotional intelligence. Again, let them sit with that pain. Let them sit with that happiness. I mean, I could think of times where my sons have beat a really bad team and they're in the car having fun. And I want to say, "Oh, you're having fun now. Wait till you play that really good team at 3 o'clock." But again, I want them to sit with a little bit of that joy. I think that's part of it. And so letting them build their own emotional intelligence. And the last thing is when you do all the talking in the car, and again, I'm speaking to our dads here more so than our moms in this one, you don't allow your daughter to have a voice. Your daughter is always going to defer to that strong man in her life that way. And again, I see it with my girls, the ones whose fathers are active in their lives. I see it. They look to that man for a certain level of support and comfort that they only can get from a father. And I think it's important for us to let our kids start to develop their own voice. That's great for their mental health. So I really encourage you in the car ride, when you do all the talking, don't allow them to. The other thing I'll say is this about the car ride home. The car ride home should be thought of as a sanctuary, a mosque, a temple, a church, a synagogue, whatever place of worship, a place where there's no judgment, a place to where you can ask for forgiveness, a place to where you can speak and breathe and be free. And what we don't want to do is get into a spot where the car ride home is you giving criticism, not feedback, you giving criticism. And I had a situation coaching these young ladies where a game got over. Father sends me a message and says, "Hey, we need to talk." Now we won by 20. His daughter started, but yet we needed to talk. And so we meet, and it was probably about a week later before we could finally meet. And we sit down, and he says to his daughter, "Hey, tell Coach Mosley what you said in the car ride home." And his daughter immediately went like this. And now some of you might say because she was scared and nervous about me, which is definitely possible. But what her body language said as I probed was that, "Damn, Dad, you kind of violated my trust because the car ride home was really just me kind of venting and getting stuff off my chest. I really didn't want to talk to Coach about this stuff." And then the mom says, "Hey, don't worry, sweetie. I took notes." And so here we have a young lady who does not seem like she wants to share this with me, a father pushing and prodding, and a mom who actually took notes in the car ride home. And I don't know that it didn't work for any of us. It was not a safe, healthy place more for her than it was for any of us. I think that was an adult conversation. Those were adult feelings that we've tried to put her in between. So I say that to say, and let that car ride just be what it is. Let them have that space to be themselves, to say, if they want to complain about Vanessa, let them. You just say, "Okay, I hear you. I hear you." And then you say, "Well, is that something that you should talk to Vanessa about? Or do you need me to do it for you?" And quite often they'll say, "No, not a big deal. I'm just complaining. I'm just venting." And I think that's fair. So give them that space in the car. Let's talk about home. When you do everything at home, you take away opportunities for discipline and accountability. My kids have chores. Sometimes the chores aren't done very good, and I got to go back and kind of clean it up and do it again. And that's okay. But I let them do it to build that discipline and that accountability. We got to let them have those opportunities. We have to stick with our guns when when I say, if you do that again, I'm going to take the iPad away for a day. You got to take it away for a day. You have to stick to it. We have to teach them that discipline and accountability. My son asked me one day, he says, "Dad, are we friends?" And I laughed. I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Dad, are we friends?" I was like, "No." And he looked at me, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, "I'm your dad. I'm here to teach you discipline and accountability. If you like me or not, because friends are people that you like." I was like, "It doesn't matter to me whether you like me, son, but I need you to understand that I'm here to teach you discipline and accountability." And he said, "Well, will we ever be friends?" And I said, "Well, when you get a mortgage payment and a kid, we can be friends, buddy." So teaching discipline and accountability at home. When you do everything at home, you take away opportunities for organization and time management. So my sons have been, since they were my younger son, since he's about 8 or 9, has been, I wake him up and I don't do anything else. I say, "Hey, time to get up," and I get out of his way. I don't dress him. I don't make him breakfast. If he asks, it's different. But I've really encouraged them for their time management. And now my son knows that when it's time to leave, I'm not going to go get him. So I'll tell him, "Hey, we're leaving at 8:05," and now it's up to him to come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm ready to go at 8:05." And there are days where I'm sitting outside in the car waiting for him, and he comes scrambling out of the house at 8:06 or 8:07. And again, you parent how you want to parent. That's how I parent my young men. I want them to have some organization and time management skills. My son forgets a water bottle. He goes to the gym. Well, guess what, boy? You're going to be thirsty today. "Well, Dad, can I drink some of your water?" "It's the water fountain over there, son." Well, guess what now? He doesn't forget his water bottle. Guess what now? He always fills it up before he leaves the house. Those tough lessons that, again, we keep talking about, today's kids are different. Well, I think it's up to us to kind of find ways to help them grow the way we want them to grow. And then when you do everything at home, you take away choices. You take away choices. So one thing that I started when they were young was, "Hey, man, you want green beans or corn?" Now they don't understand, you're going to eat vegetables, kids. You're going to eat vegetables. I'm giving you the choice. Do you want green beans or corn, totally up to you. But I try to include my kids in choices as much as possible. But I also have learned how to give them the choices that work for me. Like today is too late to do a crock pot meal, but do you want chicken or do you want tacos? Like whatever I got time, but I try to give them choices when it comes to food, choices when it comes to where we're gonna go for entertainment on the weekend. Hey, do you want to go do this or do that? So I think it's really important that we create opportunities for our kids to have choices. So let's talk about developing resilient kids. It starts with their mindset and giving them opportunities for wellness. And when I talk about wellness, is really teaching our kids the importance of nutrition and sleep. That's what I mean by well and exercise. Obviously, if they play basketball, they have a healthy respect for exercise. But wellness is sleep and nutrition, water. It's really important. So again, at our house, bedtime is pretty much just 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock on the weekends. That's just what it is. And my sons will be like, well, Dad, I don't have school tomorrow, or we can sleep in. But I also know that my son is going to be crazy if I let him stay up till 10:30 or 11, because he's still going to wake up at 7. He's not going to sleep in. He's still going to wake up at 7. He's going to be crabby and grouchy. So we just go to bed. We have our bedtime, 9:30, 10 o'clock at the latest. It's just bedtime. And again, that's part of what me teaching them about wellness. Mindset. There are so many books out there for mindset. There are so many resources and videos and things out there to help strengthen our kids' mindset. If you're not talking to your children about their mindset and about breathing and about gratitude and about things of that nature, I think you're really neglecting a great opportunity to set your child up for success. So your mindset is going to determine your perspective on the world, and your perspective on the world is really going to determine your success level. If you walk out of the house feeling like a victim all the time, you will find plenty of things to be victimized about. If you walk out of the home feeling thankful and having gratitude for what you have as opposed to what you don't have, you're going to find more things to be grateful for. And again, that's research-based stuff. That's not just me saying it. These are things that have been proven over and over. Gratitude leads to more opportunities for gratitude, just like victimization leads to more opportunities for victimization. Developing resilient kids. My son wants to be on TikTok and Instagram so bad, and I know some of your kids probably have their own pages. I think it's important that we really talk about digital safety and responsibility with our kids. I've got a couple videos that have gone online, that have gone viral to different degrees of virality. And about once a week, this video we put up 6 months ago, and about once a week, somebody pops in and just says, "This is stupid." And it's like you really woke up today, and what came to your mind was, "This is stupid." I'm a grown up, so it doesn't impact me the same way. But I can only imagine what it's like to be a 12 or 13-year-old young lady or a 12 or 13-year-old young man who's going through hormones and puberty, to see somebody say, "This is stupid," on a video of them hitting a shot or a video of them crossing somebody over. So I think it's really important when it comes to developing resilience with our kids that we spend some time around digital safety and digital responsibility. I get college coaches that want my girls' phone numbers at the high school. So I get a 40-year-old man who calls me and says, "Hey, can I get this 16-year-old girl's phone number?" Now think about that. Where in the world would we think that that is 100% appropriate? But yet we have our young kids have their own, they have their inbox, their direct messages on all their social media where these different people can talk to them. And I think it's really important that we talk about that digital safety and responsibility. And so when a college coach asks, "Hey, can I get that girl's number?" I say, "Yeah, here's her mom and dad's number." "Yep." "Well, can I get her number?" "You sure can. You can ask her mom and dad for her number." Okay. Again, that's for me. That's how I kind of operate as a high school head coach. I think another piece about having resilient kids is the value of relationships. Building resilience requires a village. Every one of us on here probably has a group of people that we rely on, that we trust, that we work closely with to help us with our own mindsets, but with our family mindsets. And I think we got to teach our kids that same thing. right? We really want to teach our kids how important those relationships are, and then also putting them in perspective. I mean, you think about how many of us are still friends with our people we went to high school with. And most of us probably have a couple friends from high school, but a lot of us have kind of gone away. And to our kids, that's the most important relationship in the world, these kids at my school. But we know that over the course of 5, 6, 7 years, those kids are going to grow apart. And so it's really important that we help our kids find relationships that are fruitful and valuable and that really can impact their growth. Another thing about developing resilient kids, man, teach them how to explore their game, explore the woods, explore whatever opportunity you can give them to just explore, check things out, climb that tree, hop that fence, ride that bike. Things that we did, all of us got scabs on our knees, all of us got scars on our knees and elbows, but we spent all this time protecting our kids from falling down. And then we want to say today's kids are soft. Now, wait a minute now. You just protected your kid from falling down. You don't let them cross the street by themselves. You don't let them go in the grocery store by themselves. Again, I'm not judging, but we do all these things and then we say these kids are soft. Again, not sure how y'all. I was born on Hilltop in the 80s in Tacoma. So, I definitely was raised differently than my kids out here in the Summit Waller Road area, suburbs of Tacoma Puyallup, right? My kids get a ride to school every day. I was walking to school and taking city buses to get free breakfast and free lunch. These kids are different, but I got to encourage them to explore so I can toughen them up a bit. Last thing about developing resilient kids, I'm gonna give you this one of my acronyms. If you're taking notes, this is noteworthy. Okay, building resilient kids, teaching your kids how to control, we call the controllables. There's only 5 things in this world that you control. The universe is huge, but you control your earth. You control your effort, you control your attitude, you control your response to the things around you, you control your thoughts, and you control your habits. You do not control whether your teammate makes the layup. You do not control whether the referee calls a foul. You do not control the guy in traffic that cuts you off. You do not control whether a shot goes in. You control the habits that get you to that shot. So again, your effort, your attitude, your response, your thoughts, and your habits. That's what you can control. A little more about developing resilient kids. The number one way to build self-confidence, the number one way to build confidence is self-talk. For our team at Emerald Ridge, every single day before practice and every single day before games, we do what we call JAG time, the Jaguars. JAG time is 2 minutes of self-talk. So my girls pull out, I say, girls, get your phones. So I blow the practice starts at 5:30. I blow the whistle, tweet, get your phones. They grab their phones, they open up a note, and for 1 minute, my girls do affirmations. I am smart, I am beautiful, I am talented, I am loved, I am a great daughter, I am happy, I am good at basketball. They do 1 minute of affirmations, and then they do 1 minute of gratitude. I am thankful for my family. I am thankful for God. I am thankful for this opportunity. I am thankful for basketball. And so we spend 2 minutes every single day, 100% before every practice, and we do it on game days. And so, again, I'm trying to do my best with my young ladies to help them build up resilience. Develop resilient kids. Self-talk gets us back to neutral. There's a lot of research around optimism, and the reality is optimism is not always feasible. It's not always the best way. It's not like something bad happens in your life. It's not always, you can't just say it's going to be okay. What we really want as players, I want my players to be at neutral. I don't want them to be high. I don't want them to be low. I don't want them to be too happy. And I don't want them to be too sad. I want my players to get to neutral. Self-talk builds momentum. It's hard to say, I am smart, I am talented, I am beautiful, I am awesome, and then go out and do dumb, ugly, stupid things. It's hard. And so as we build that self-talk, what happens is your body starts to walk that path. Your neurons start to fire, the synapses start to connect, and you start telling you, I'm smart, I'm talented, I'm beautiful. And now you start to act smart, act talented, and act beautiful. And then the more that you act smart and act talented and act beautiful, you become smarter and talented and beautiful. The thing about our self-talk is this is what most of us have happen. So the talk action results, we call this the self-talk cycle. Self-talk, man, I suck at math. I hate math. Math is horrible. And then I have a math test coming up. So my action is I'm not going to study that much. I don't like math. I hate math. So I'm not even going to study that much. The result is you get a bad grade. And then the self-belief becomes, see, I told you I suck at math. And our kids do this perpetual cycle. And so we've got to teach them how to self-talk a little bit better. And I always talk about these two voices in our head. We have these two voices in our head. You have this critic voice that says things like, you suck at math. You're awful at basketball. You always miss these free throws when it's important. And that's that critic voice that says, you. And a champion says, I am. And so that's where we come with the power of affirmation, saying things like, I am talented, I am smart, I am beautiful, I am awesome. So let's talk about mindset a little bit. We talked about permission coaching. So before I give feedback, I always ask my sons, hey, can I give you feedback? Most of the time, my kids say, yeah, Dad, what did you see? Now, my son is so excited about basketball. He gets done with his games. He's like, Dad, what do you have for me? Dad, what did you see? Because he knows that I'm going to give him constructive feedback, no criticism, just constructive feedback. And he also knows he's going to get a jolt of, man, I loved your leadership. Man, I love that teamwork that you showed. Right. So he gets that jolt from me now. So when I say, hey, can I give you some feedback? He's like, yeah, tell me what you got, Dad. Another thing about building confidence, again, we talked about giving them space in the car ride home, giving them space. Um, Another important piece about building confidence is being calm and consistent. You're having a bad day at work. You and your spouse are struggling. You got a mortgage payment that's due. You got this report at the end of the month that's due. If you are riding this wave of emotions, it's really going to be hard for your children to find some stability in you. It's going to really be hard for them to find that hope in you. And so I'd say is this, as a parent, you got to be a lighthouse. And what I mean is this, lighthouses don't go running all over an islands trying to save boats. Lighthouses stand strong in the wind. Lighthouses stand strong in the storm. So yeah, your life can be stormy. Yep. Yes, your life can be rough waters. Yep. But you better be calm and consistent with your young people if you want to help them have confidence. But if you're nervous and worried and scared and they see it, so will they. Building confidence, value the process over the outcome. Uh, Value the process over the outcome. Success leaves clues. If your kid wants to be great at something, there's somebody who's done something very similar at the same height, from the same city, from the same high school. There are ways that they can find a process to follow or mirror or mimic or adapt and adopt and adapt is what I like to do. We don't say stealing anymore, Vanessa. We talk about I stole your drill. No, I adopted it and I adapted it, right? And so we don't steal, we adopt and we adapt. And so I really encourage you to focus on the process, not the outcome. My son throws a pass. A kid doesn't make the layup. And my son is frustrated. I asked my son, was that the right pass? Well, yeah, cool. It's always the right time to throw the right pass. My sons know that. It is always the right time to throw the right pass. Don't matter who catches it or drops it. I ain't worried about that. Not at 12 years old. Value the process over the outcome. So how do we build mindset? Well, I'm gonna give you, oops, sorry, go back. Another acronym. This is the A game. I say every day, if you want to be successful, you got to bring your A game. So the controllables are your earth, effort, attitude, response, thoughts, and habits. If you want to be successful and you want to be a winner, every day bring your A game. The A stands for affirmations. Every day you got to self-talk. Tell yourself how awesome you are, how great you are. The G stands for gratitude. We talked about gratitude statements, the power of gratitude. The A is action. You want to be an NBA player? Then you better do some NBA things. You better be doing some push-ups. You better be dribbling that ball. You better be passing that ball. You better run around the block. You want to be a doctor or a veterinarian? Well, you better get on YouTube and watch some videos. You better go get a book and read. You better find a website to study. So affirmations, gratitude, the A is action. The M in A game is mindfulness. Every day, we got to take some time to be mindfulness. If we can teach our kids how to be mindful, you're going to create stronger kids. I saw a comedian say something the other day. He said, kids these days don't know about mindfulness. He said, we were always mindful when we were kids. We were mindful when we were riding the bus because we had nothing to do, no phone to play with. When we went to the bathroom, we were mindful sitting on the toilet. While we were waiting for our mom to finish her shopping, we were mindful. We found places in our head to go without going to a device with the fake world. And so I think it's important that we teach our kids a bit about mindfulness, which can be meditation. It can be prayer. It can be just listening to good music. I like to have, we all have those Mary J. Blige days, right? Where you have them days where, man, I need me some Mary J. today, right? I'll put my music on. It helps me for my mindfulness. And then the E is exercise. Spiritual exercise, mental exercise, physical exercise. So if you want to be great every day, you should bring your A game. Affirmations, gratitude, action, mindfulness, and exercise. So I want to give, before we wrap up, I want to give you what I call some empowering sports words. These are words as coaches, as parents, if we can use these words with our kids, some of these words, find the ones that fit your vocabulary. Some of these ain't going to sound right for you. Cool. Find these words that fit your vocabulary and your child. And again, you want to be a treasure hunter, use some of these words. Man, I watched how you played. You played some basketball. That was a brave game that you played, or brilliant, or electric, or gritty. That was a gritty performance today. Man, you're a talented young lady. The way that you played today was so selfless. Again, I put words up here that are empowering. And again, I coach girls. So these are the words that I try to give with my girls when I'm talking to my girls. Like, that was fierce. I love it. Right. And so I think it's important that we find a way to use these words with our young people. So a quick story, and then I will wrap up and get you. We've been just under an hour. I'm gonna get you all out of here. Tell a quick story about the oak sapling. So one day there's a young man, and his mom gave him some area of their property and said, "Hey, this little area over here is yours. Do whatever you want with it. Do whatever you want." And so he says, I want to grow some oak trees. And so he goes to the store and buys a bunch of oak saplings, they're starting to grow a little bit. They're not the seeds, but they've been growing a little bit. And so he plants these oak saplings. And as they grow, there's one of them that he kind of likes a little more than the others. So he waters it just a little bit more. And they're growing and they're growing. And then he noticed the one that he watered is kind of a little bit weaker in the wind. So he gets a popsicle stick. He takes the popsicle stick and he puts it up against that sapling and ties it up to that sapling to try to keep that sapling a little bit stronger. So now he's watering it. That sapling has a popsicle stick. And then the summertime comes and he's seeing it. It's kind of getting burnt, and the roots and the branches are starting getting twisty. So he builds a little cover over top of that oak sapling. So now he's watering it. He's using popsicle sticks, and he's got it covered because that's his favorite oak sapling. He wants to protect it. And then one night, a storm ravishes their property, and it comes through and just tears up their property. And all the other oak saplings were standing nice and tall, and his poor oak sapling toppled over in the storm. And I tell you that story because of this. If we're always watering their roots and never letting them struggle, their roots aren't going to get very deep. If we're constantly propping up our kids with popsicle sticks, they're not going to build that strength. And if we constantly cover them from the sun, they're not going to build the strength and the roots and the grittiness that it takes to be successful at basketball. So I really encourage you to allow your kids some struggle, allow them a little bit of failure, allow them to fall down and scrape their knees, allow them to be rejected, allow them to go through some of those struggles. So thank you much. It's been an hour on the dot. I definitely appreciate it. Any questions you have, any I call it the ABCs. Anything that you agree on, anything that you want to build on, and a C for anything that you want to challenge. So ABCs, you agree with me, you want to build on it, or do you want to challenge what I said? So feel free to unmute yourself and share and comment. Yeah, at whatever level that you feel. But I definitely appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Coach. The floor is yours, parents. You got a couple minutes.
I just wanted to say thank you. I feel like this is just a really good reinforcement of things that we're trying to do at home, with our son being a newer player. So it's good to hear some perspective and some guidance and find some weak spots where we as parents can improve, and just supporting him and his experience. So thank you for taking the time and talking to a bunch of names on the screen. I was listening.
Thank you. Thanks, Steph. Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else?
Cool.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so
Hey,
much. Oh, I knew you were going to say something,
you
Joe.
know I was going.
Yeah. What's up, G?
No, I was listening. I was listening real good in this. And me and Vanessa, you just said something on here. Me and Vanessa was going through this same thing. This during tryouts and all this stuff. And like you said, my son, he watches everything I do, everything I say. And I felt more stressed about tryouts and all this stuff than he was. And
Yeah.
and I'm just saying, I can just relate to everything you just said. It's crazy. And we realize that we have to
We can't be coaches. We got to be parents.
Be coaches. We got to be parents.
So,
and we got to let them fail. You got to let them fail.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everything you said today, man.
Mosley, Gerald's upstairs. So when you started, I was texting him. I'm like, get on the call.
And just for all of you know too, we've known each other for a lot of years. I got to find that picture. I got Marcus, and Marcus probably in about 6th grade maybe, and my son's probably about 6 years old, maybe 4 years old, and Marcus is just so patient and being so kind to my little guy, and so it's really cool to know that we've been running these streets together for a long time, y'all, and so I definitely appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good
deal. All right, guys, I'm gonna let Mosley go. I'm gonna give you one more shout out.
What's up, Goss crew?
Hey, sorry, we just got home from the Seahawks game.
Yeah, no problem. Glad you came home with a smile.
We hear it just about every session. So, and I apply it. And it was rough at first, but it helps her too. So appreciate
your daughter, and she's all in too. Your daughter is all in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always a good reminder to hear it again, though.
Yep. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you, Mosley. And he has several topics, like he mentioned. So we look to, bring him on. We'll have a rotating calendar. So at least a couple times a year for us, we'll bring him back. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank you much.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great night. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.